Hello, today we are going to start into our 8th grade health class. We're going to be looking at chapter 5, lesson 1. It's called Promoting Social Health. Think back to 7th grade health. We talked about the 3 sides of the health triangle. So here's one part we have not talked about, obviously. We talked a little bit about the physical last time. Didn't get into the mental, emotional, but that's okay. But right now we're talking about the social, and lesson 1 specifically is going to look at your character and your relationships. All right? So, first part we're going to look at is your social health. Your social health is nothing more than your ability to get along with others. And what we really mean by that is this is just your relationships with everyone in your life. All right? And by definition, relationships is the connections you have with other people groups in your life. At the stage of your life, most of your relationships are going to revolve around family, friends, and peers. All right? Most of you don't have professional relationships yet because most of you don't have professional jobs yet. Okay? So that's probably the one biggest thing that you will have to adapt to as you get older is adding that fourth one in there. And within every relationship is unique, okay? And when I read this in the book, I went, wow, this is spot on the truth, okay? Because it's just like you never have the same relationship with each parent. You never have the same relationship with each one of your siblings. You never have the same relationship with all your friends. There's always one friend that you're a little closer to than another and some that you just aren't so close to. That's life and that's normal, and that's why each relationship is unique. You know, even talking, that's why different teachers, different people in your life all carry different values because, like we said, each one of those relationships is so different than the other one. Okay, within social health, one big thing we want to look at is how character affects a lot of things. And this is the character is really the foundation of all your relationships. Your character is going to dictate a lot of this, all right? And just a quick reminder, in that character by definition is the way a person thinks, feels, and acts, all right? And they're often based on the values, which are the beliefs and ideals that guide the way a person lives. To go along with that, your character traits are a quality that demonstrates how a person thinks, feels, and acts. Okay, a character trait, for example, could be you're quite the generous person. You donate a lot of time, money to a certain organization that you feel very strong about. Okay, that's a character trait. All right. These 3 things put together is really like I've already mentioned, is that these are going to be the foundations of these relationships you're going to form in your life. You're going to find people that often have similar character, values, and traits as you do. Because if you don't, a lot of times, not saying you aren't friends with them, and like we've said, and you've heard the saying, opposites attract and get married, and it does happen. But for the most part, the people you're going to associate with in your lifetime are going to be very similar to you in a lot of ways. Now, the character in your health. Your character directly affects your health and actually affects all 3 sides of your health triangle, all right? For example, on the physical side, if you take care of your body and act responsibly, your character choices will make it so that it'll last a lot longer, all right? If you respect your body, you're not going to put it in positions to probably, shall we say, get hurt, excessive ways, that's just one little thing. There's a million more to go along with that. On the mental emotional side, if you're typically, healthful of it, mindful of it, you're going to be kind, generous, and willing to help other people, all right? These 3 things there alone will make it so that every night you go to bed, I should say, you will feel much better about the day you have had, and it'll actually make your rest easier, versus if you're the opposite of that, you're often going to be a person that goes, when you go to bed at night, probably kind of looking over your shoulder. You're not going to be very at peace with who you are, all right? So I kind of make that just quick little difference in there. The social side, If you're socially healthy, you're going to treat people with respect and compassion, all right? And this is one thing I feel our world's really lost a lot of insight into. And I don't mean to bring politics up, but it kind of is an important thing here right now in this day and age. A lot of people have forgot to respect people's rights to have their own belief. They have, they don't if they don't like it, they think it's their right to speak out against it. And I'm not saying everyone doesn't have a right to opinion. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes it's okay to agree to disagree. And I feel part of our society has really gotten away from that. And the other thing that goes along with that, and I know the word respect out there, but we got to have compassion for people, all right? We got to be able to try and help people through things in their lives. If you're socially healthy, you got to show compassion to that person's having a bad day, bad week, bad month, or just had a bad instance happen in their life. And now let's talk about character and action. And what we're really looking at is how it makes a difference in all areas of your life, okay? Most teenagers have 3 areas in their life at this point in time. First one's going to be the home, okay? All of us have to go to some type of home at night. We have certain responsibilities that come with it. And here's where some kids start really separating themselves from other kids. This is where kids can do chores without being told to do so. They don't have to be reminded by their parents. All right. By doing this, you're showing your parents you have the character traits that will make it so that you're trusting and reliable. You have the ability to communicate with your parents. All right. This is one thing I failed miserably at as a teenager. I'm not going to lie to you. But you can't be afraid to talk to your parents about things. Yeah, it may seem awkward and uneasy at times, but it's probably the best thing for you and all people involved. If you're willing and able to communicate with your parents, it's a two-way street. So that if, for example, you would talk to your parents about maybe an emotional issue or even maybe just a psychological issue, maybe you're dealing with depression or things of that nature, if you are able to communicate with your parents, you can get the help you maybe need, or at least make your parents aware of where you are in your life. Parents, we try to be on top of everything, try knowing what's going on for the most part, but sometimes we need help. And that's where if teenagers can communicate with their parents, it makes it a lot easier on everyone involved. Keeping your room clean. I know some of you might be chuckling when you read this because if you're like me, and like I said, I was not a very good teenager in a lot of ways. If you keep your room clean, it does say something to your parents. I know my parents, there was 4 brothers, and one of them managed to keep his room clean. The other 3 were terrible. And needless to say, the one that always kept his room clean, kind of whatever he asked for within reason, he could get. And looking back, it makes sense. Not saying this is the end-all be-all, but if you're a person that typically takes care of their rooms, means that you can trust them to do what they ask to do. School. Now, the funny thing about this one to me is that most of you spend almost a third of your day in the school setting. So this is a bigger part of your lives than most of you realize it is. Okay? But with the character and action in here, we're going to look at, do you show respect to the rules and adults in the building? Some students do a very good job at this. Some students could do a better job at this. And don't get me wrong when I say this, but every kid's been guilty of probably breaking this one somewhere along the line, all right? When I say kid, I do mean a teenager. But for the most part, if you follow those 2 basic rules, usually your school day will go a lot better. Being a good person to those around you. Okay, this is where you're a good person to your friends or your classmates. This is where if you're able to show your classmates respect, you should get it in return. Now, I know it doesn't always work that way, But this is where we also sometimes refer to be the better person or be the bigger person, all right? You gotta be able to sift through stuff that isn't going right. Because you may say something and mean it in the nicest way known to mankind, but that person's having a bad day, and the wrong thing comes across, and they blow up. It happens. So even in school, you gotta learn how to let those things go through you and move on. Community. A good sign of character and action in the community is simply volunteering, okay? And some of you are going, well, we're in Tioga, North Dakota. There isn't a ton of volunteering. Yes, there is volunteering. You can go volunteer at the nursing home. You probably can help volunteer at different church projects, different community events. There are community events here and there. And people are always looking for a hand. You never know. Sometimes it just might be offering to help some person with some simple yard work that they have a hard time doing. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities. Just if you get the opportunity to do it, I highly suggest that you'll actually find that in the end you get so much more in return than what you actually put into it. Being vigilant is a very important character and action trait, okay? And what we mean by this is that you need to be aware of what's going on around you. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and rat every person out that does something wrong. However, you see something that's not right, you make sure you notify the proper people. If you know someone's getting picked on excessively at school, please let the teacher know. If you're out and about and you see somebody vandalizing something, I hope you'd be smart enough to give the cops a call, 911, and give them a description of what you saw and who you maybe saw doing it. Being vigilant means that you show that you respect and care for the community you live in. Now, looking at strengthening relationships. When we talk about strengthening relationships, we're talking about these things that we've already formed a relationship with someone, so how do we make it better? We show respect, all right? We need to be able to, even in our good days and our bad days, show a certain amount of maturity. Just because you're having a bad day doesn't give you a right to look at your best friend and start making fun of him just because you're having a bad day. That's not being very respectful. And even at that, it might not even be your best friend. Maybe it's the person that you don't care for that's around you a lot. You gotta find ways to just keep being good and nice, even though you don't really feel like being that way. The next one is open and honest communication. All right, this one's pretty straightforward. You gotta be able to communicate with the people around you to maintain that relationship. By being more open about that relationship, you build that relationship, and hopefully you can, form a relationship that maybe if you need to talk to somebody, you can, and you can trust them. Spend quality time and share common interests. This is where if you and your friends or whoever you're having, whatever, it's a friend relationship, is you do things that you have fun doing, all right? And this is a good way to build upon those relationships. Now, if we're getting past just like maybe a friend, maybe a significant other in your life, this is where how you demonstrate an affection and admiration in healthful ways. And I guess this could also involve just regular friends, just by being complimentary. But I mean, if you are talking the relationship part of it as well, you could also refer to make sure you understand what your boundaries are in your relationship. Don't go past them. If they get near them, remind them of them. If they insist, maybe it's time to change that relationship. Last thing, understand and accept individual differences. This is one thing here, again, like I've said, that I think our country on a whole needs to get better about. We as a society want to judge people on this, that, and everything else. And reality is maybe we just judge people on the content of their character. All right, that is the first section of this chapter. And, it's a lot there. Make sure you read over it. And then make sure you do your assignment. All right, we'll talk to you later.